we're going to get started. Thank you today for joining us on the Cybersecurity Lunch and Learn webinar. The New Jersey Business Action Center, a division of the Department of State, exists to provide support, education, and resources to the business community of the Garden State. Learning opportunities, like our webinar today, and our live events, like our next week free in-person Resources for Growth networking event at Stockton University, are important offerings for small business owners, entrepreneurs, and employees who are able to benefit from access to accurate, reliable, and relevant information that can help businesses grow and thrive. Today's webinar, Small Business Big Threats, Together for a Cyber Resilient Tomorrow, is an informative and educational online event that focuses on helping small businesses understand the cyber threats that they face, such as phishing, smishing, ransomware, and business email compromise. Our webinar will be facilitated today by Meshach Walker, Cybersecurity and Election Security Coordinator at the Division of Elections, and will examine the importance of cybersecurity planning. By exploring tips and best practices for protecting against these common attacks, small business owners and employees will be better equipped to protect themselves, their customers, and their data. Before we get started, we have a few housekeeping notes. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of today's webinar, this session is being recorded. Access to that link will be sent via email to all registrants in the days that follow the webinar. Also, resource materials created by our featured speaker will be sent as well. Please feel free to use the question and answer function throughout the session. If time permits, we will have a short Q&A towards the end of the webinar. NJBAC staff will be monitoring the chat. Whether we're old friends or just meeting for the first time today, the NJBAC team is available and ready to help business owners, entrepreneurs, and employees through its 5 distinct offices: the Office of Business Advocacy, the Office of Export Promotion, the Office of Small Business Advocacy, the Office of State Planning, and the newly launched Cannabis Training Academy. Whether you're just starting a business or looking to grow it, if there's a question about registration, exporting your goods and services, business enhancements, funding programs, or anything else related to business in New Jersey, we're here to help. You can contact the business advocates at NJBAC through our helpline, easy to remember, 1-800-JERSEY-7, or through the live chat found on business.nj.gov. Anytime you need us, we'll be here. And to be sure that we stay on your radar, you're invited to follow us on social media. You can follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook. Now, I'd like to share a bit about our featured speaker today, Meshach Walker. Meshach currently serves as Cybersecurity and Election Security Coordinator at the Division of Elections in the Office of the Secretary of State. His role is multifaceted and centers around raising cyber and election security awareness throughout the state of New Jersey. In addition, Meshach is accountable for aiding all counties in the state with their specific election security requirements. Within his role, he's been privileged to journey across the state, educating county officials and municipal clerks about the landscape of cyber threats and strategies for proactive election security. This involves running hands-on tabletop exercises and facilitating workshops, which are specifically aimed at the design and key components within the continuity of operations plans. Outside of his official duties, Meshach wears the badge of cybersecurity enthusiast with pride. The ever-evolving nature of this field fuels his passion and commitment, driving him to constantly learn and stay abreast of the newest developments. Meshach, we are all pleased that you are with us today, and I'm happy to turn the microphone over to you.
Thank you, Angela, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well and week is coming along just fine. Tomorrow is TGIF, so I know everyone is excited for that. But to jump into things and to give a brief background on myself and not to sound too repetitive, my name is Meshach Walker. and I currently serve as the Election Security Coordinator for the Division of Elections in the offices of the Secretary of State. On a day-to-day basis, I partner with New Jersey's Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness and really focus on ways to raise election security and cybersecurity awareness all throughout the state, as well as work on great projects like we have here today. That being said, I won't take up much of your time today, but today's webinar will be packed with a bunch of valuable insights and information. So if for any reason you happen to miss any part of this presentation, the recording will be made available shortly afterwards. So to kick things off today, I'd like to share some statistics about small businesses in New Jersey. According to the United States Small Business Administration, small businesses account for 99.6% of New Jersey's businesses, employing 1.9 million individuals, and that's 49.2% of the state's total employment. Now, you may be asking yourself, why these statistics may matter? And the reason is because this speaks volumes of what you guys do for the state of New Jersey. And it is crucial that we, in return, are able to support you guys with our full efforts. And that is why I am here today. Cybersecurity has become a top concern for all businesses around the world, whether small, medium, or large. The difference is large enterprises are able to easily adapt simply because they have the resources that cover the cost of security teams or a robust amount of security solutions that can provide multiple layers of defense and overall enough that if a cyber incident were to occur, things won't impact the business as much as it would a small business. Now, keeping all of this in mind, today I am excited to share with you all information about the top attacks that are currently impacting the small business community, as well as a few tools, tips, and cost-effective ways that can help potentially protect the security of your assets and privacy of your information, as well as yourself and employees. The goal is to be cyber safe, but we can only accomplish this by preparing ahead and being proactive. Now, moving along, I would like to thank all of you for taking the time out to attend today's webinar. I will be focusing on 3 whys: why it is important to establish a cybersecurity work culture, why it is important to have basic or essential cyber hygiene, and lastly, why it is important to know your resources. All 3 are critical when it comes to cybersecurity, and hopefully today I can help you understand why they are. So, to begin, having a cybersecurity work culture is vital. It helps employees with awareness and ensures that security is taken seriously within an organization or business. Because the bottom line is humans will human. In 2022, according to Verizon's data breach report, 82% of data breaches have been caused by human error, which to me makes sense because oftentimes the end user is the weakest link in a business's security chain, whether it's using old or the same passwords, clicking on a link, downloading that malicious file, or even using their work computer for personal matters. There are tons of ways that a business's security can be compromised by human error. So, how do we ensure our employees and ourselves are not the weakest link? How can we create a vigilant work environment where everyone feels confident enough to report suspicious or malicious activity? Highlighting an enterprise security company by the name of Proofpoint in 2022 stated that 84% of organizations in a survey they completed reported back that security awareness trainings help significantly reduce phishing failure rates. And building on that point, with security awareness trainings, businesses can begin to teach their workforce to recognize phishing attacks or other cyber attacks to make sure they know what actions and steps to take if one is encountered. Moving forward and bearing this in mind, here are a few ways to cultivate that cybersecurity work culture, starting with, as previously mentioned, one method is to provide security awareness trainings. These can be virtual or in-person instructor-led trainings. Another approach can include creating or using awareness posters, newsletters, or even videos about current threats and trends in your industry. For example, if it's being reported that there's an uptick in phishing emails, A couple of other possible ways to get the message across to employees can potentially be by briefly discussing it in a group or teams meeting. Next month is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is another perfect time to raise awareness to employees, whether it's by having someone come in or doing it internally with staff. I do know that the US Small Business Administration provides infographics on certain attacks that's more visually appealing than definitions or lecturing. Another idea can be simulated phishing emails, which have become a more popular method that businesses use now, where employees receive multiple phishing emails and individuals who fall victim undergo additional security awareness training as a result. However, with all of this said, by establishing a cybersecurity work culture, you create a work environment in which employees aren't hesitant to speak up or report any suspicious behavior, especially if there are incentives like a Starbucks gift card for the employee who may call out the most suspicious emails for the month. You see, cybersecurity is a team effort that requires an entire business, meaning owners and employees, because again, you are only as strong as your weakest link. Now, turning our focus to our second topic, the importance of cyber hygiene. Having a basic or essential cyber hygiene is important for all small businesses because it helps protect their data, maintain a secure online presence, and minimizes the risk of cyber attacks. According to Verizon's 22 data breach report, for small businesses, the most common attacks in order were ransomware, the use of stolen credentials, and lastly, phishing. That being said, I have business email compromise listed on the right of your screen, which wasn't mentioned in those top attacks. And the reason is all of those three attacks or threats can be interconnected, whether it is the use of stolen credentials being an attack vector for business email compromise, phishing being a method to steal credentials, and also being an attack vector for delivering ransomware by way of clicking on a malicious link or downloading a malicious attachment. So this demonstrates how all of these attacks listed on the right of your screen can be connected and build on each other. And as we take a step forward, we can see how each of these attacks individually has impacted our state, New Jersey. Now, these are statistics from the FBI's Internet Crime Report that include years 2018 to 2021. Looking at ransomware first, we can see that this attack has increased over the years in both categories. And to further that point, ransomware has continued to rise because it's how the bad actors are getting paid. And not to mention, it's available on the dark web as a service. So your lowest level bad actor, we call those guys script kiddies, will be able to purchase and attempt a ransomware attack without needing any advanced technical skills. Moving on to phishing and smishing, the number of victims have been consistent for the most part, whereas the total losses reported have drastically decreased. But then again, as already discussed, business email compromise, another form of email phishing, has been significantly high and still remains from 2018 through 2021. As a state, there's been an average of 587 victims who have reported an average of $61 million lost in per year due to business email compromise. And these numbers are staggering. And I firmly believe they're significantly higher for three reasons. Number one, not everyone knows where or who to report an incident to. Secondly, discouragement. Many times attacks and incidents go unreported because individuals are afraid of being reprimanded. And number three, it's just negligence. Unfortunately, there'll always be people who don't care about the consequences because, hey, it's not their business, enterprise or organization. So as a small business, having basic or essential cyber hygiene improves your business's security posture and reduces the risk of your business being vulnerable to any of these attacks. Now, diving deeper into what cyber hygiene is, and It's a set of best practices a business or enterprise follows regularly in order to protect their business. Now, using our personal hygiene as an example and the methods we use on a daily basis to prevent certain diseases or illnesses, cyber hygiene is very alike. We wake up, brush our teeth to prevent cavities, but in cyber hygiene, we have anti-malware or antivirus to prevent malware attacks, or an email solution with good spam defense to protect against phishing. And the practices continue in the same way that they would if we were attempting to attain good personal hygiene altogether. The business's goal should be to achieve overall improved cyber hygiene, which ultimately protects a business from cyber attacks and other threats. Conversely, on the flip side, just as there are ways we practice good cyber hygiene, there are also ways businesses can practice poor cyber hygiene, such as failing a patch or updating systems or applications, using applications and different services with one method of authentication, or even allowing users to share accounts and passwords. Almost all successful cyber attacks take advantage of what could be described as poor cyber hygiene. Ultimately, poor cyber hygiene invites risks and can jeopardize an organization's overall resilience. With this in mind, though, let's move on to using resources like the Center for Internet CIS controls. And these controls help aid and assist in the establishment of good cyber hygiene, as well as the prevention of the consequences of poor cyber hygiene. CIS has 3 different implementation groups that each use different controls, with some controls that may overlap. However, for small businesses, implementation group or IG1 of the CIS controls is the best choice because it's cost effective and relatively easy to implement. On top of that, IG1 is the definition of essential cyber hygiene. Shifting our focus to a few examples listed here on the screen from IG1, like CIS Control 7, Continuous Vulnerability Management, which involves how patches and updates are handled for a business. If there's a critical vulnerability that's just been announced, is there a process to update or patch systems for your business? Are your patches automated? If not, how are updates being tracked? Control 10, malware defenses. Do you have anti-malware or antivirus software? Maybe an endpoint detection solution. If so, which solutions are being used? How often are scans being done? Is that solution installed on all devices that belong to your business? CIS Control 11, which is data recovery. If you experience ransomware, do you have a continuity plan in place or an incident response plan? Do you have backups? How frequently are these backups performed and tested for functionality? Where are they stored? Off-site, on-site, in the cloud, or a combination of these? These are just a few questions that arise when walking through the CIS controls. And lastly, we have Control 14, security awareness and skills training, which goes back to creating that cybersecurity work culture and getting everyone involved in the workplace. These controls are examples of how in-depth the CIS controls go in order to help protect your business. Implementation Group 1 is not just another list of good things to do. It's an essential set of steps that helps businesses and enterprises deal with the most common types of attacks we see in real life. Now, moving on to the next slide, which is know your resources. Instead of making a slide full of resources, I thought it would be far more beneficial to provide you all with what I call the Cybersecurity Small Business Starter Kit. It covers a wide range of topics, including information on security software with use case scenarios, explanations on incident response plans, the different security policies and what they are and prevent, and a ton of other resources tailored for small businesses in New Jersey. One of them being the CIS controls, which we just covered to explain what essential cyber hygiene is. I believe it's vital for owners or CEOs of small businesses to know that they are an attractive target for bad actors. So understanding the resources available enables a business to take the necessary steps to protect their business and avoid serious consequences such as data breaches, financial losses, and reputational damages. For example, I used a resource called Fish Report to help build a case that this email from Amazon regarding the shipping confirmation was a phishing attempt. It checked all of the boxes, such as urgency, to evoke the emotional reaction because I knew for a fact that I didn't purchase anything at this point in time. The sender's email address was also a red flag because it wasn't associated with Amazon as well. Comparing the arriving dates of the package to when I received the email was completely off. And what was icing on the cake, I hovered over track your package and noticed that the URL on the bottom of the page read login.shippingupdate.net, which also had nothing to do with Amazon as well. And at this point, I knew it was phishing, but taking the extra step and using resources like Fish Report, where you can see if a URL is malicious, I plugged it in, and if you look to your right on the Fish Report screenshot, sure enough, if I clicked on that track package located in a phishing email, it could have redirected me to this malicious website, what's really known as a credential harvesting website that looks exactly like an Amazon login page where I could have entered my Amazon credentials and a bad actor in real time would have been able to retrieve them. However, tools like this shouldn't be used as the telltale sign that an email is phishing or that a website's URL is malicious. It's just an additional tool to help build the case. I like to give that heads up because there have been instances where tools like this don't always report malicious, although the URL may be. So, like I did with this phishing email, always look for multiple indicators and red flags. To conclude, before we can achieve anything in cybersecurity, we must all recognize that this is a team job in which we only get as far as the weakest link. So it is all of our responsibilities to assist one another in learning and disseminating accurate information because bad actors do target different industries, but many use and have the same tactics, techniques, and motives, which as of late have been financial. So whether you work in healthcare, finance, education, or any other industry, we all should have one common goal: to stay cyber safe. Thank you all for attending. My info to contact me is here posted on the screen. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, which is also a great method if you have any additional questions. Thanks again, and I'll pass it back to you, Angela.
Meshach, thank you so much for providing such an informative overview of, you know, how we can look to prevent cyber attacks and how we can practice good cyber hygiene. And I do appreciate how you provided that example about how, we have hygiene practices like brushing our teeth, and we're really looking at prevention to avoid problems later. For anyone that is here in our webinar right now, feel free to use the Q&A to pose any questions. And actually, before we conclude for the day, I did receive several direct questions that I'm going to share now, as long as you're able to talk with us for a little bit longer, Meshach.
Sure.
So one of the inquiries was for a little bit more elaboration on the CIS controls and some of the most important takeaways from that. Could you delve a little deeper into some of that information for us?
Sure, Angela. Well,
Thank you.
implementation group one, or IG1 that I mentioned earlier, should really be the main focus for small businesses. It's a total of 18 controls and was condensed a few years ago from 20, I believe. But the controls are a set of best practices designed to help organizations strengthen their cybersecurity posture. Implementation group one, like I mentioned during the presentation, is defined as essential cyber hygiene, and they're designed to be implementable by those with limited cybersecurity expertise and are aimed at general attacks like your phishing attacks or your cyber attack or your ransomware attacks. And I think the last thing I like to mention is or note is that the controls typically work in conjunction with small or home office off-the-shelf products, which makes it a lot easier for these small businesses who aren't able to afford the pricey solutions that's made available to the public.
Great. Thank you very much for going back and providing a little bit more detail. Our next question that has been posed, is there any way you could provide some other phishing examples and any other red flags to look out for? And Meshach, I will say that when you showed the Amazon, like the visuals up there on the screen, that at first glance, I can understand why someone might look at that and think that it's coming from Amazon. And we know that the bad actors out there are, really replicating very authentic looking things. So the discerning eye needs to go through and be able to see those red flags. So any other examples or red flag kind of spotting tips or techniques would be appreciated.
Sure. Give me a second. I'm going to disconnect from sharing the screen. I actually have an example I was waiting to use for a cybersecurity awareness month training. But if I could stop share for a second and then pull it back up, give me 1 second briefly, because you're right, it is important to cover. But 1 second. Sorry, bear with me.
No, no, no.
I
I like
have it
that we're
up.
getting an exclusive look at some best practice stuff. And I know that all of our participants today really appreciate that. And while Mishrak's working on that, I would want to emphasize that this doesn't have to be the end of the conversation, whether it's reaching out to Mishak directly, as he's invited everyone to connect with him on LinkedIn and provided his email, which will also be available in the handouts and the materials that we send afterwards. Uh, we want to be able to keep the conversation going. And there are other resources out there. This is a good starting point conversation, but you're always more than welcome to contact Meshach or contact the New Jersey Business Action Center at that 1-800 Jersey 7 or the live chat on business.nj.gov, because we want to be there for that business community to make sure that all of the potential resources are something that you have access to, especially when we think about just how many things are out there. We know that small business owners and entrepreneurs in particular, you've got a lot on your plate. We want to be able to direct you quickly and efficiently to good, reliable information.
Right. I completely agree with you, Angela. And I was able to pull this up. This is an email that I was waiting to use for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. But however, it's a fake Verizon Files email or phishing attempt, which was sent. And on the right of it, if you look at it, it says, think before you click. These are a few tips that I came up with to, I guess, questions that you can use when when you receive a suspicious email that you suspect is malicious or a phishing attempt, beginning with examining the sender's address. The files, Verizon Files, is completely spelled wrong, and that's a red flag. Analyzing the greeting. Most emails greet you personally as Dear Meshach or Hi Meshach, whereas a lot of phishing emails are generic, like using words like dear value customer or high customer and things of those natures. But continuing on, checking the urgency and tone of the email, where it says urgent, Verizon Files, mixed payment. It's always the technique of using the emotional or trying to evoke the emotional reaction of the user, and then expecting those links. This right here, if you look down to the bottom of your screen, if you look down to the bottom of your screen, it says bit.ly.com, and that's a shortened link that could potentially redirect you to a malicious URL, and bad actors do that. But on top of that, this is an image. The files, sorry to see you go, is an image. It shows that it's an embedded link, embedded malicious link within that photo, and bad actors often use that to trick someone to click on it. And then lastly is verify the legitimacy. If I get an email about a missed payment, I'm going to pick up the phone and call just to make sure that this is correct, because at the end of the day, I don't want to lose out on any money. And lastly, the last two is use strong authentication. You want to always make sure you have MFA on all of your accounts, because if the bad actor gets into one of your email, if your email or password is exposed, then having that extra layer of defense, like multi-factor authentication, they would need that second method in order to get access. And then maintaining secure passwords is major. It's major. when trying to protect any accounts. And I believe NIST last year updated their standards for secure password, and it's longer, 11 or more characters, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, just following these tips can help anyone decipher or deconstruct an email that they believe is malicious or a phishing attempt. Thanks.
Great. There have been quite a few other requests from the chat. Can you define MFA and NIST?
So NSIT is the National Institute Standards for Technology. It's an organization that they release different frameworks for organizations to follow or to pretty much use to secure their assets or businesses from a cyber, and also for information security as well. And then the CIS, what was the CIS? I'm sorry, Angela.
It was the inquiry was to define MFA.
Oh, and then MFA. MFA is multi-factor authentication. It adds an extra layer of defense to or extra layer of authentication to any of your accounts. We often get, when we're logging into our bank account, we have to sign in with our password, and then we receive that secure code through a mobile text message or through email. It's a combination of using different I guess, different factors to sign into, to authenticate to an account, whether that's biometrics or SMS short codes, and there's other factors out there as well.
Great. And, generally speaking, I think if we were talking about multi-factor authentication 10 or 15 years ago, it was not as common as it is today. And that it seems to be, we're moving in the direction of that really being standard for a lot of things that have accounts and, privileged information.
Right. And one thing I do want to mention is that New Jersey is a special state. We have the NJBAC, the New Jersey, I'm going to butcher this, but the New Jersey Cybersecurity and Communication Integration Cell. And it's a one-stop shop for cyber needs, and they can visit cyber.nj.gov if they ever needed, I guess, help with cyber or had questions, or if anything came up cyber related where it was a concern.
See. The next question that we have from the chat jumps back to the CIS control. So this inquiry is wondering how to get CIS control and where to install it. And then the follow-up to it is personal computers or servers, question mark.
So the CIS controls, like I mentioned, so the CIS controls, you could find them on, you could Google it, CIS controls, and it'll pop up, it'll populate from a Google search, but you can find them there. And then there's also guidance within the website that shows you or instructs you where to start when trying to apply these different types of controls. And then as well, in the PDF I mentioned that I'll be giving out or distributing after this call, it's also information regarding the CIS controls in there as well.
Great, thank you. The next question from the chat, I'm just going to read this one so I don't mess it up. Where I work, I've been trying to convince my supervisor to pay more attention to all of this, but nothing is happening. How do I express just how serious bad things could be in the future?
Well, if you look at the news, you want to show different reports, I believe. And it doesn't matter what type of organization it is. It could be Microsoft, which is going through a bunch of stuff right now, or it could be your local firm. It doesn't matter. If you look at the news and pay attention to what's currently happening in the world, cyber attacks are increasingly becoming popular. They are popular, and it's only going to continue. And it's not a matter of if, it's when a cyber attack will occur. So the longer you hold off, eventually something will happen. And just signifying that will help out a lot.
Great. And it's looking like we have one more question at this time in the chat. And just a reminder, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop them in there and we can ask Meshach for his perspective. How do you vet someone that is a cybersecurity professional? Do you have any advice on how to evaluate, effectiveness is what this question's asking.
So vet a cybersecurity professional, as in a beginner willing to wanting more knowledge, or I'm not sure I completely understand that question.
My understanding from what I'm seeing here is that if you're looking to hire someone to help you with cybersecurity, like, instituting good processes, how do you go about, finding a good cybersecurity professional?
Well, I guess it goes back to background and how knowledgeable that person may be. And yeah, I'm sorry, I can't really answer that question, or yeah. But whoever it is, you can always reach out to me, and I'm willing to, I guess, figure it out, and we could walk through it. That's perfectly fine.
Thank you, Meshach. And I'm just going to check to see if there are any others here. It looks like we have addressed all of the questions that have come through on the chat. And checking to see if there's been any other messages. Well, this has been so informative, and we are grateful for your time and expertise, Meshach, and as well as your invitation for any kind of follow-up questions or resource information. And just to repeat for everyone that's joined us today, once the recording is available for this particular webinar, we'll be sending that out through the Eventbrite registration that we used, and we'll be including the resources that Meshach has very generously crafted for us to be able to use. Meshach, is there anything else that you would like to mention before we wrap for today?
No, Angela, I really appreciate everyone for taking the time out to attend today's webinar again. It's been a pleasure, and always feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the New Jersey Business Action Center and the Department of State, we would like to thank you for attending our webinar today. We'll be sending out those follow-ups, so please be sure to keep a lookout. And every once in a while, they'll go to spam or junk, so you should check there too. And don't forget, you're invited to the free in-person Resources for Growth networking event that's being hosted next week at Stockton University for our business community. And registration is also available through Eventbrite, which is the same place you registered for this webinar. And as always, NJBAC is here and available to support the business community in New Jersey. If you're looking for assistance or you need help with next steps, please contact us at 1-800-JERSEY-7 or connect with us via the live chat on business.nj.gov. We appreciate your time and we are here to help. We hope that you have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.